14 million people, one city, no master plan, no grid, and addressing systems so confusing even locals get lost. It was destroyed twice, by an earthquake and then by war. By every rule we think we understand about cities, Tokyo should not work. It should be congested, it should be chaotic, it should be failing, but it isn't. The trains run so precisely that a 2-minute delay triggers a formal apology. It's one of the cleanest cities on Earth, without public trash cans. Crime is so low, it almost feels theoretical, and somehow, this massive, dense city is one of the most livable places in the world. That doesn't make sense. So the real question is, what is Tokyo doing that no one else can? There's a belief most of us hold without questioning it. Bigger cities get harder to manage. Wealthier cities function better. Modern, purpose-built cities have the advantage. It's a clean, logical framework, and it makes cities like Tokyo almost impossible to explain. Because Tokyo is not wealthy by design, it wasn't built with advantages. It grew chaotically, rapidly, out of destruction. And yet the logic that governs every other major city on Earth seems to just not apply here. Here's what's strange. The more you look for the secret, the harder it is to find. There's no single policy, no genius mayor who changed everything, no moment in history where someone sat down and designed the city correctly. And that's exactly what makes this so interesting. Start with the trains, because everyone does. Tokyo's rail network is run by dozens of separate companies, private, semi-private, public, all operating in the same city. In theory, that's a recipe for chaos. Competing systems, coverage gaps, incompatible pricing. It should be a mess, but it isn't. And the reason why reveals something important. Each of those private rail operators doesn't just run trains, they build the neighborhoods around their stations. Shops, restaurants, services, all generating revenue that flows back into better infrastructure. The train companies are profitable not because of government subsidies, but because they built a loop where their success depends entirely on the city working well. That's different. In most cities, transit is a public service running at a loss, kept alive by funding cycles and political will. In Tokyo, the incentive structure is reversed. Efficiency isn't just a goal, it's how the operators survive. But this doesn't explain everything. Look at how Tokyo handles density. Most cities push density outward as they grow, rings of suburbs spreading away from the center, concentrating pressure into a single downtown core. Tokyo does the opposite. Density is distributed across the entire city. Apartment towers next to quiet alleys, a small factory beside a noodle shop beside a family home. It looks disorganized, but the effect is that there is no single breaking point, no one neighborhood where the weight of the city collapses. And this is where things change. Japan's zoning system has 12 categories, and they are permissive by design. Residential areas can include small businesses. Commercial zones can have homes. Neighborhoods are allowed to evolve, to respond to what people actually need, rather than being frozen into the vision of a planner from 50 years ago. Compare that to cities in North America or Europe, where zoning laws in many areas still prohibit apartments on residential streets, force people to drive for basic errands, and protect the aesthetic of a neighborhood at the cost of its usability. Tokyo, with all its visible chaos, is more adaptable than cities that appear far more organized from the outside. But there's still something missing from this explanation. Tokyo was rebuilt by a society that could not afford for it to fail. Post-war Japan had no safety net. Reconstruction was entirely self-driven, and what emerged, not by design, but through necessity, was a city where the boundary between private responsibility and public space was deliberately blurred. The sidewalk in front of your shop is your responsibility. The small strip of street-facing space outside your building is yours to maintain. Nobody waits for the city to fix what is technically a public problem. This is the piece that visiting planners always miss. They arrive looking for the transferable policy, the specific mechanism they can take home and implement, and they leave frustrated because it doesn't exist as a single thing. What makes Tokyo work is not a policy, it is alignment between incentives and outcomes, between how the city is physically built and what the people living in it actually need. The trains work because operators profit from efficiency. The density works because zoning allows change. The streets work because responsibility is distributed. And all of it holds together because, through disasters, through decades of growth, through chaos, function was always the primary value. Not image, not prestige, function. So go back to the opening question. How does a city of 14 million people with no master plan and no structural advantage outperform cities that look richer, newer, and more organized? Because it was built, not all at once and not by one person, but consistently over time around one idea: make the system work for the people inside it. Most cities fight the problems their own design keeps creating. Tokyo is structured to make those problems harder to generate. That's not culture, that's not luck, that's a city that was built to function, and almost no one noticed.